Hi guys, so I thought I'd just do a wee recording of like how to block out brows. We're going to do it in class, but just in case anyone misses it or you want to go back and kind of redo it yourself, thought I'd give you a wee video. So first of all, normally when you block out your brows, you do that first before you have any makeup on, but for the purpose of this wee video, I'm just going to give my brow a little clean. Taking off any product that's already there. Again, kind of taking off any product that's like round about the area before you'll be applying the glue. And again on the other side. It's amazing what comes off your brows when you think you've cleaned them, but you're not actually. So again, we're kind of removing all the product just to make sure there's no like extra oil left on the skin. Because again, that's going to stop the glue from kind of bonding to the skin as such. So once your brows are kind of clean, the skin's clean, you're ready to go. I like to brush my brows through a couple of times just to almost to dry them off from the product, but also just because I like brushing my brows. Now the glue I'm going to use is your ELMERS Glue, this one here. Now this is great, it's non-toxic, it's also washable as well, so it's ideal for using on the skin. I wouldn't use anyone that was not non-toxic even. So the ELMERS Glue, if you are going to use glue, I would make sure you get this one. It's probably about £4 or something, or you can buy a double pack. Again, it is purple, as you will see, but it dries clear. So a lot of people kind of brush the glue on. What I like to do first of all is to brush my brow down. Again, just means that when I do come to applying the glue, I can get it right on. I'm also going to go back and forth a couple of times with the glue, make sure I'm coating it all. Now you can see it's very purple at this moment, but trust me, it will dry clear. And then I like to just move that glue product around, making sure all the brows are coated. And then once I'm happy, I'm going to gently roll that brush up and brush up my eyebrow. Now the reason I brush my eyebrows up for this effect is so that when I do come to flatten them out, they're as flat as possible. If I was to kind of brush them to the side, again I would get a flat look, but the hairs lie on top of each other, so therefore they kind of are adding a little bit more layers and heaviness, so you're not getting them quite as flat. So brushing them up I find to be the best way. So as you can see, I'm kind of rolling that spoolie up into my brow. Kind of like the trend that's going about just now. I think some artists actually use this for the kind of soaped out brow look. It's maybe a bit too hardcore for me for during the day. And you can tell that you've got the wee hairy bits from where you've not had your eyebrows properly threaded in a while. So again, just getting back in with the spoolie and really pushing it in. Once you're happy there's enough there, try not to get your hair glued, then I like to kind of let it sit for a minute or so. Sometimes what's good if you just get one of your brushes and then you can gently roll it to kind of really flatten the area. Obviously you need to kind of clean off any excess off your brush in the end. But again, that's another nice way of getting it really, really flat. And it does start to go kind of touch dry. So you can see how badly shaped my brows are. So again, I'm just going to keep doing it until I feel that there's enough on there, and then I'll apply some powder. Some people like to kind of powder in between the layers. I like to just kind of powder at the end once it's dry. Again, let it dry, and then you can get your brush and just roll it. If you don't have a brush at hand, then you can just use your finger, and that'll do a good enough job. And it should almost feel really flat to the skin anyway. Gives you that automatic little eye lift, doesn't it? So I'll just check that. Yeah. It's getting there. So the more coats you give, the kind of flatter it'll be, and the more secure it'll be. Depending on what look you're going for. If you were going for just doing this look on a model that's going to be standing in the studio, then A couple of coats will be fine, but if you were doing it for like a drag queen that's going on stage, then you'll need more than just one layer. It'll need a couple of layers to keep it all in place. Yeah, and then I'm going to do the same on the other eye, okay? Come back in 2. So you can see the glue is dry and clear. Going on purple. Again, let you kind of know where you've applied if you've missed a bit, like at the end there. Those wee flyaway ones can always be a wee bit of a giveaway. So yeah, I feel quite happy. I think I'll do one more layer. Then we just have to let it dry, which doesn't take too long, thankfully. Now, with the glue, obviously it's not entirely, well, it's not definitely not made for makeup purposes. It is non-toxic and it is washable, so I mean it is safe for the skin, but I would always patch test it regardless 24 hours beforehand, because we don't want to be having any reactions, do we? So if you do have the glue, or if you're going to go and get it, make sure you do a patch test prior to sticking it on your eyebrows. So once the glue is dry, they've gone kind of that clear, you've got the Insta brow that everyone kind of wants these days. Now I'm going to powder it with a bit of white translucent powder. Again, that just sets it all in place. Now when you are powdering, it's important to just gently push the sponge into the glue base that's there. We don't want to be brushing it on or moving it about too much, because then you're just going to disrupt all the glue that you've kind of spent a wee while building up. As I said, some people like to do it between each layer, so see what works for you. I personally find just doing one layer at the end works good for me. Now I'm just going to completely take my brows away, so because I've got no brows. Obviously, regardless of if you were going to be doing a colourful eye or some sort of sinister look or whatever floats your boat at the end of the day, you would kind of work with what is going to go on that area. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to completely block them out, and there's a couple of ways you can do them. Some people use concealer, some people use foundation, some people like to colour correct first. I'm going to do a tiny bit of colour correcting just to take away the darkness on my brow, and then I personally like to use an eye base rather than a foundation or concealer. I like the eye bases because it's not got as much oil in it, therefore it lasts a bit longer and you get a wee bit more coverage. Plus when you do, generally if I was to block out my brows, I'll be doing a big kind of shaded look, therefore I can apply the product on top of that. Now before you add on any colour, it's really important just to have a close look and make sure there's no bits on the brow that the glue is kind of peeling back, or you've got a little kind of hairy bit that's no eyebrow, because that's going to pick up under the makeup, and then you won't get a nice kind of smooth base. So there's a wee tiny bubble there that I'm just going to get rid of. Gently tweezing that away. And now I'm going to go in with a little bit, I'm using like an orangey yellowy tone, an orange concealer, an orange lipstick, anything like that would go on the brow and just naturally block it out. So again, it'll be the wrong colour as a match, but it'll mean when I come to add my base on, it'll block it out a bit easier for me. So I'm painting that onto the actual hair that's there. I'm not going to paint it all over because I don't want to add any orange anywhere else. It's literally just on top of the hair that I'm trying to conceal and hide. Now that's a grease paint that I'm actually using here, so if it's a grease paint, I need to powder it. So at this point, I'm not going to use the powdered bit of the sponge that I use, I'm going to use another side that's clean, and I'm just going to gently dab around the edges of that because I don't want that to set with a harsh kind of yellow line. So the softer I can leave my edges, the more natural a look I'll get. And again, always being careful that we're not bashing the product that we've already applied there or moving it about too much. It just defeats the purpose. So now that I'm happy that I've kind of colour corrected to a certain degree, I'm going to powder that. Again, just using my white translucent RCMA powder on a sponge, just gently pressing it in. I don't like to use too much powder. I think too much can make it go a bit flaky, so just enough to set it's more than enough for me. So now you can see my brow is disappearing, but it's more kind of yellowy orange now. So now we need to correct that. So I am going to use my P. Louise base. Now I have got shade, I really think shade 3 would be the best one. I don't currently have that, so I'm going to mix shade 2 and 4 together. So now I've got my 2 shades, I'm just going to mix them together and hopefully create something that resembles number 3. And then we're going to paint that on top. And again, you should see the brow start to disappear. Just like that. Now, because I'm using the base for the eye, I can then bring it down, which is what I like to do. I think it makes your life so much easier. You're killing 2 birds with 1 stone and you get the nice kind of blend transition. Of course, the P. Louise base doesn't need to be set either. And for that reason, I set it with a foundation powder rather than an actual translucent powder. So once you're happy that you've kind of blocked that out, I will go around the edge again with my sponge, the kind of clean end that we were using to kind of blend the colours in, not the powdered side. And just dab that into my base that's already there. As I said earlier, you probably wouldn't have a base on first, you would just do your brows and then work your foundation into that. And it's gone. So depending if you'd want to do another layer or not, if you are going to do another layer, at this point I'll come in with my foundation powder. I'm using Studio Fix by MAC here, and I would just gently dust that into my brow, remembering to go with the direction that they have set the hairs to set all that, and then I could apply another base if I wanted to. Beginning to look a bit weird. So brow's gone. For the next one I'm going to use something different. I'm going to use something that you have in your kit. So I've got the Ben Nye Media Pro concealer palette. Now the peachy tone, that one there, I'm going to apply that first of all because it has got more of an orangey tone to it. So that hopefully will work as a little bit of colour correcting. So I'm just going to scoop a little bit out, pop it onto my brush. Again, we should be able to coat the hairs. And once your brows are coated, you can, as I said, you can do absolutely anything you want. And the good thing about the glue is it feels so lightweight, you can hardly feel it on. I need to remind myself to take this off before I answer the door. So that's the peach on. So again, I'm going to go back in with that sponge, just this small end. Again, if you had a beauty blender, you could use that, just ensure that it's clean. And the reason I'm just using the one sponge is that saving the environment. Again, I'm just going round the edges, making sure that the product that I've applied on is blended, because obviously if I set that, then that's it, it's kind of stuck, it's going to budge, it's not going to budge. So I have to make sure that I am being conscious that I am setting it. Now again, I'm going to go in with some powder, just gently placing that on top. It's done quite a good job actually, hasn't it, just by itself? And now I'll add the concealer on top of that. So I'll scoop a little bit out. I'm going to go for the lighter one, I think. No, as always, I always say less is more. You can always add more. It's harder to take it off. So brush it on. And you can take it a little bit higher if you wanted to as well, because you are going to blend it into the skin. Keep looking very bizarre. And then just your little sponge. I do always like to kind of take the concealer product down onto the eye, just because it gives you a better blend, and if you are adding eyeshadow on and stuff like that, it's a little bit neater for you to blend your base. So I'm going to set that. This time again, I'm going to use my Studio Fix foundation just at the end. I like this, the powder foundations, because they give that a little bit more coverage again. It's a great thing to have in your kit. Use them quite a lot in shoots and TV and stuff. Taking away that shyness, the shininess even. And again, just dusting around. So I can still see a little bit of that one, so I'm going to go back in and just add a little bit more. So just building it up as we go. And I'm only applying it to the bits that I need to, rather than applying a full layer all over. Because the front of the brow is pretty concealed, it's just that kind of little middle bit. This is my better brow though, it's not got as many patchy bits, so maybe that's the case. Right, let's set it and see what it's like. Whoa, we're going away. I look a little bit weird. So just dusting off any excess there. And there we go. Brows are gone. I prefer this one, the one with my P. Louise base. I think it's a little bit softer and just generally a little neater, whereas the one with the concealer I think's a little bit heavy. But again, depends on what your purpose is when the brow is gone. So you could easily draw another brow, you could change the shape of the brow, you could go up here and draw a brow, you could do a big butterfly eye, you could do Ursula, whatever character you want to do. So have a wee think and you can practice at home.